Hello, Jay. How you doing?
Didn't mean to leave the podcast room.
Yeah, Craig's already here. He was waiting for you.
I know. Like I literally stepped out, and half a second later, Craig is here on the first try.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have to call him 16 times. He answered his phone immediately.
Yep.
What? Maybe he felt that his job was in jeopardy. I don't know.
Well, I gave him a verbal warning.
Oh, just one.
Just one. Yeah.
The beating shall continue until your morale
The
improves.
yeah, the bidding shall continue to morale improves. So hi, I'm Christopher, and that was Jay, and we're the Grumpy Dungeon Masters, and I'm going to talk about gatekeeping. So,
Again? I know we've talked about it a couple times, but I got to hear why you're talking about it. What's the story?
so when you have a gate to an ethereal realm, you always want to have at least a guard on it, if not a whole town of owl folk.
See, that's a
And
different type of gatekeeping, you bastard. But let's talk about it. Let's do it.
Actually, I was just kind of just trying to throw you a curveball. Anyways, um, yeah. I was browsing Facebook, browsing DM Master Resources Incorporated, the third, and some guy posted a photo of his game with his DM, and it looks like this guy had a bunch of miniatures, made a crap ton of homemade props. Okay.
Mhm.
It's like an alchemy room. Got a bunch of cool like vials full of like colored liquids and like parts of like other miniatures he got chopped up and put in there. And then he's got all like this like wooden terrain and like fake grass that you would see like in a train set. I think this
Okay.
person has a lot of train sets. And the guy who posted it was just like, "Hey, look how great my DM is. Um, my DM is better than your DM. Just saying, smiley face." Just kind of being quirky and happy, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh God, I already know where this is going. This is the same thing that happened to you, isn't it?
Oh my god, the amount of people that are just like having miniatures and terrain doesn't make you a good DM. I've been DMing since 1970, whatever the crap. And now, based on my viewpoint and personal experiences, DMs and miniatures and terrain doesn't mean anything. Man,
Er,
like,
Take a.
why?
People have to learn to take a fucking joke. Oh my.
It's just a guy being happy that his DM went the extra mile.
Yeah.
This toxic, like, you can't be in my club because I don't like it and you're having more fun than me. It's just gotta stop. Like, it just
Here's the thing. That's not going to stop. That's the internet.
it's
That,
the
that-
internet. I
it
know,
is
but
it is the internet. That's like I when we all started playing around on the internet when we were younger, it was full of forums where people literally did that. Just trolled the shit out of each other, were hateful to each other, and that's not going to stop. That's not changing. That's just people. And
it just
it's
annoys me.
specifically it annoys me too, but it is specifically people who are not standing there face to face.
I don't know, this guy kinda looks like a schmuck that would, well, actually, and then push up his glasses and tighten his headband that he's wearing.
Yeah,
And
wearing his Naruto headband.
no, this guy looks a little bit older. Like I said, he's been playing since 1970. Who cares?
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah, he
he's
doesn't know.
wearing like
He
a
doesn't. He has no idea what a Naruto is.
he's wearing some kind of like biker headband. But still, it's just like there was another post on here too where a guy was like, "Hey, check out the screen that I had. I'm looking to find a VTT that would work for it." And I commented, "A he want Foundry would probably work
A
for him because he,
foundry, because
yeah,
that's what you always pitch. Yep.
yeah, because he wanted something online and it would work in person on a tabletop with a TV on the table."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Foundry would do that. Um, and then like somebody had the gall to complain that that TV that he had laid down on the side on the table wasn't in a wooden frame.
Who cares? It's
Who
not your TV.
cares?
It's not your fucking TV. It doesn't matter.
Like, stop trying to make people not have fun. Like stop. Just stop this. This needs to end.
If you think
These
it really, like, if you really think it needs to be in a wooden frame so awful badly, there's two things you could do. One, you could actually talk to the guy, in private messages and say, hey, if you want, I can teach you how to build a wooden frame for that. Or two, you can just shut the fuck up and build it yourself and then send it to him.
Yeah. There's one other post, and nothing grumpy about this one. It's just the whole group playing D&D in what looks to be like a garage or something, like a furnished garage, because there's a water heater in the back corner.
Yep.
All right. So like they're sitting at the table. You have a ratty couch and some ratty chairs and some like '90s band posters all over the wall.
Fuck yeah,
You have
sounds like a great time to me.
you have one of those broken dish cabinets your grandmother had. That had all the dishes. All the doors have been like ripped off. And then like in the far, right next to that, in the far back, there's a water heater, just exposed water heater, not enclosed or anything like that. And like they've put like 100,000 stickers all over it.
Oh, the basement, man. It's the
Eh,
basement.
I don't know what a basement is because
I
everywhere that
do.
I've lived has
I
been on the freaking coastline, and there's no way you can have a basement.
fair. I know exactly what a basement is because there's an exposed water heater down here with me.
Yeah, in Alabama, where you actually have, a
Oh,
thousand feet
yeah,
of water.
yeah. In Alabama, you if you're in northern Alabama where I'm at, you better have a fucking basement because tornadoes.
Tornadoes.
hmm I mean, hey, it's not a joke, man. Tornadoes. Have you ever played with? Have you ever used like tornadoes or volcanoes or anything in your D&D game to add add a different scenario that's not necessarily monster related, an
I've
avalanche, shit like that?
well, I mean, I've had an avalanche when like a book said to use an avalanche, but and in the Frostmaiden campaign, I used an avalanche once, but the book said to. Um, and the blizzard, of course, but the book said to.
Yeah, the blizzards are that's one thing. The avalanche, how did that go? Shouldn't they have been dead because it's a fucking avalanche?
That's actually how that. Remember that encounter I had at the Green Dragon where I killed everybody with the owlbear at level 1?
Oh, that yeah, that
Yeah,
mind you, that was a
yeah,
different thing, but yeah, okay.
yeah. It started with the avalanche.
Oh,
That's how that started.
all right.
It started with, "Hey, you're in a caravan, the Icewind Dale," and then all of a sudden, avalanche. The party members are okay. Everybody else is dead.
Ah, that's right. Yeah,
It was
Mother Nature will fuck you up.
it felt very forced. But I've never actually thought about having just an encounter with like natural disasters.
I
You
think
know,
volcanoes would be a good one.
well,
I mean, Mount Doom.
I'd find it hard to have a party survive it.
Yeah, a tornado you could survive that.
Yeah, that's just running away and hiding.
Yeah, just
Volcano is little. I'm changing the landscape of this campaign from this point forward. Good
well,
luck.
you could actually it would be interesting, and you could do it totally where you control the flow of the volcano. So your players have to be in a scenario where they had to be at the volcano chasing after somebody or whatever. And as they're chasing this guy, the volcano starts erupting. So it then changes where they have to run to. They can't run the way they started to go. They have to go a different direction. It allows you to sort of funnel them. And if the players really, really screw up, well, then it gives you the opportunity to have them, die to a volcano, which would be new.
Yeah, but like volcanoes were supposed to be so destructive that like it could erupt 10, 20 miles away from like your city, and that city is still going to burn down.
It's going to depend. I mean, there are volcanoes erupting right now in Hawaii, and nobody, like there's houses 100 feet away that are
Well,
just hanging out
I
there.
guess we
So
have I guess we have to define eruption. An active volcano that is currently spewing out lots of magma is not an erupting volcano.
it,
Don't don't
I think the
don't
technic
science me,
I think
but
that technically it is an erupting volcano. It's just not an exploding volcano.
yeah, but that's not what I would label in my mind an erupting volcano. Like I said, don't science me. But like Pompeii,
Yeah,
that's an erupting volcano.
yes. I mean, look, if one of those, good luck. It's hard. It would be hard to build something around that unless the players were just trying their best to get everybody in town underground before that happens or some such. But yeah, that's not a disaster that would be easy to use in a campaign.
Mhm.
not saying it couldn't be done, but I would have to sit and actually think about how do I utilize this in the campaign setting.
Well, I tell you one thing, I could probably have a volcano erupt in the middle of my owl campaign, in the middle of Glide Sky Roost, and it would not have changed the outcome of my first session with them.
Do you mean Gladesky Roost?
Gladesky Reist? Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Gladesky Reist.
yeah, Gladesky Roost.
Uh,
So
so
why would it not have made a difference?
I killed 2 of the players.
Level 1's rough, man. Level 1 is fucking hard. Even with 5th edition. 5th edition is the softest of all the editions I've ever played. But man, at level 1, you don't have enough hit points to take anything.
So one dropped, and it was 2 for 2. Like there's one enemy that shoots the firebolt. I rolled a firebolt. I rolled a 10. Took out the bard, who had basically gone ahead of the what I'm calling the Chad owls, the 2 frontline barbarian-esque owls, and
Well, hold
took a
on.
fireball to the face.
Hold on. The Chad Owls.
Yeah, they're kind of playing them like
Please
bros.
tell. Yeah, I was gonna say, please tell me there is a bromance there. Like they gotta be
Yeah, they're
wearing popped collars and matching shirts.
they're developing it.
Okay, perfect. I love it.
Because they're both kind of like highly competitive, super strong owl people.
How much you even
So
lift, bro? You even lift?
exactly. Um, and so what had happened is the bard owl landed, took a firebolt to the face, fell over dead. Um, and then everyone else was just like hovering outside of where the bard owl landed, so there's nobody within melee range. All right. So the worms crawled out, saw there was nothing for them to attack, and I had the owl attack the player on the ground that had just failed his
First death
one
save.
death save.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Um.
so when
I
you said you killed somebody, you mean you really killed them?
well, I was like, okay, they're still in town. They can always just logically bring them to like the druid that's in the town and get them resurrected. You know. I don't mind that. That's fine as long as they figure that out and role play it. Somebody did mention that as the owl was eating the little tiny owl's corpse. Um,
You mean as the worm was eating it?
yeah. So that was that, and then what happened later? Remember that encounter that I told you where the one player uh, cast sleep on the end boss and put everybody to sleep, including the end boss.
Yes.
Um, well, this group they triggered the encounter before the end boss with the animated artifacts, and they were able to destroy the one set of animated artifacts in like I think a single hit or maybe 2 hits. Okay, and then it was another owl's turn. We were still in initiative, and this is a new player to the group. Maybe she didn't hear that I said we're still in initiative, but she walks over to the secret door that's ajar and just kicks it open and triggers the end boss encounter. Well, a turn right after her is the next animated artifact coming out from being hidden in the display case. So it just comes rolling over, does an AoE attack, takes out 2 more owls. And now they're on the ground dying out, bleeding out. She aggroed the boss. So after that, the boss triggered and went, and it comes charging through and hits her. She's like 1 hit point. Um, and then by the time everything gets back around, they're able to kill the animated artifacts. She disengages. She grabs one of the owls, tries to run away, but she can't do anything else. And then I decide to use the boss and cast Ray of Sickness on the barbarian owl. Okay.
At least that's not
And
going to kill anyone.
I rolled a critical hit.
Wait, I thought does Ray of Sickness do damage?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it just poisoned, like gave
Well,
poison
it's an
status.
attack on the player, and then they got to make a con save.
Yeah, I just didn't
So I
realize there was damage to it, so
I rolled a
I've never used
critical,
it.
48 damage.
Well,
In
alright
total,
then.
they took 28 damage. So
That's
he was
more th
down,
I was gonna say, isn't
but
that more than double their hit points?
he said he wasn't dead, and he was the barbarian of the group, and I believe him.
Let's see,
Um,
12 if he had a massive con, that'd be 16. How much damage did he take?
28,
Okay, yeah, he could survive that.
barely, and he
Yeah,
said
if he had
barely.
even with a 16 con, he would survive it. He'd have, like, it would have been 2 points shy or something of actually killing him
And
outright.
I think he was at full life. So um, I didn't question it. He went down. The healer was able to pick somebody back up, and like the encounter plays out, these things kind of hit hard, but they're chumps. And 2 swings later, the boss is dead. Um, they do less investigation of the final room. They kind of just saw the green pedestal and just like, you know what? We've just gotten our ass kicked like 4 times. We're good. We're not gonna touch anything in this room. And they even found the magic item in the artifact room, and they're like, you know what? That's gonna stay right there. I ain't touching shit. And they
Leaving it
decided to
there,
move on.
leaving it alone.
Well, one thing that I had turned on as part of our stream is viewers can give inspiration, advantage, and criticals. Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
I also let them resurrect people. Um, I'm gonna now, in retrospect, turn it up so it's only one per session. But essentially, all it is like rolling a 20 on a death save. Essentially,
Okay.
you just come back with 1 hit point. All right. Um, so 2 of those are burned by our long-standing players that have been watching the campaign and watch all of Rime of the Frostmaiden. And one of them even messaged me and was like, "Do you want me to save that guy who's dying right now?" I'm like, "That's up to you, man. You don't have to."
It's your points. You do what you do. I'm just
It's like,
running this shindig.
and it's funny too, because like that is part of like getting the viewers involved with the game. They can change the scenario of the game. It's not that hard of an aspect to bring in from the outside, but that's how an audience can contribute to how the game goes.
Kind of
So
fascinating that that's a new that like it's a newer thing, obviously, with the streaming. Like Critical Role, I know they don't do that, but Dungeon Run does. They actually allow players to sort of interact.
now there are a number of streams out there that do things like that, but like give me 100 bits and I'll give somebody a +2 to their next roll. Are you charging $1 for someone to
Yeah,
give? Yeah,
yeah, I wouldn't do that. Don't charge people to interact, man. That's not the point.
right. I mean, I may have to raise some of the values because,
Yeah,
um, but and I had to limit some of the stuff. I think the limitations. There's only 1 crit by any player per streaming session,
yeah,
essentially.
but your values that you're using, those can change, to suit your campaign or what you feel like they should be. But at the same
Yeah,
time, it costs the viewer nothing to get those other than just time watching.
yeah.
So,
I think I had Resurrection set at 10,000 channel points,
mhm.
and essentially every 4 hours you get 2,000 points. So it was my brother and Scruffy Duck, both people who've been watching all Run of the Frost Maiden. Um, so to see them kind of come through and like, holy crap, the level 1 curse is real, and res them was very interesting, and it was kind of chaotic, and like I had to on the fly make a because druids don't have resurrection,
Yeah, they have reincarnation, if I recall right, which is
they do.
fun. That's the way to go, man.
So one of the players messaged me. He's like, "Hey, by the way, remember druids don't have resurrect; they have reincarnation. Here's the list." And I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, that's cool." And then I created a list that was pretty simple. Um, it was based on the Feywild races that I know of. Okay, and I should probably kind of go through and make this just in case. But it was like 1 through 50 would have been another Alkin. And then like every 10 points was like Pixie, Hobgoblin, Rabbit Folk, Eladrin, Elf. I think that's all I needed.
Yeah, that covers most of it.
Um, yeah. So it was it was a very intense game. It was very different than how um, the Green Dragon one went, and mostly because the players there were just it was less RP and more combat. Where this one kind of like they didn't even do one of the encounters because we kind of were limited on time because we had a really big RP session at the start. So I think I think it's good. I don't think the encounters are too crazy.
I mean, it doesn't sound like you did anything off the wall, or even it doesn't even sound like it was too powerful. It just sounds like they were first level.
Yeah,
I with Icewind Dale, when I started that one out, we started it at first level. The very first encounter, nobody died, but I want to say like two people got dropped during that initial combat, which is not that's not commonplace as you start to go up in levels.
yeah,
It's just that when your maximum hit points, most people are going to be around 10 to 12 hit points, man. That does not take much to put you on the dirt.
yeah. It really doesn't. So all in all, I thought it was a good session. I already know what I'm going to do for the next session. Um, they're level 2 now, so a little bit more of a buffer zone. Um, but we'll see. A
Yeah.
lot of it's going to basically I'm kind of following like a page at Frostmaiden and Frostmaiden where it was like, hey, go to any town that you want and do their quests kind of thing, but much smaller scale. Now it's like find an NPC, talk to them, see what they want you to do, and maybe go help them out. You know,
I have so many
and
things that I want to throw out from what I ran this weekend just because of what we're talking about. But go ahead and finish up.
so like I had my guy invite them to the bathhouse for half off a essentially a short rest in the bathhouse.
Mhm.
But there's a couple other that I want to solidify and write down. And if they choose the wrong one, they can just go die. Like,
Oh, that's always fun.
well, I mean, it's kind of like Rhyme of the Frostmaiden in a lot of ways too. We're like, hey, I need you to go stop this bad guy that keeps stealing all of our mead. Okay, let's go to this guy's cave. Oh, cool, it's Verbeeg. Nice. What level are we again?
Yeah.
2?
All right.
Uh-huh.
Good.
All right.
GG. Good game.
This is great, guys. The Rhyme. Let's
Thanks
hear it
for
for the
playing.
Frostmaiden.
Yep, thanks
Woo!
for playing. Oh man.
So,
Yeah. So you're talking about
yeah.
sending around all these different towns. So I ended up in a nice little situation this past weekend with my own guys where they weren't doing anything wrong, but I sort of kept giving them the direction they were supposed to go, and they just kept ignoring it. So they ended up spending about 3 hours of game time running from one town to the next town to the next town, just trying to get information that had effectively already been given to them. So,
There's money in the banana stand.
yeah, so I've talked a little bit about my campaign where they ended up getting resurrected into the bodies of other people. This is 600 years later from when they had been alive. So they're now 600 years into the future in bodies of other people. They've sort of figured out who these people were. One of them is a noble. The others are, they found out they were mercenaries that were hired by the noble to go do a job. And the job they were supposed to do was to find an item for a guy by the name of Lord Locking. And they heard the name Lord Locking multiple times that they had been hired to do this job for him. So they're trying to find out exactly why the mercenaries were in that country. They were trying to figure out why exactly they were there. So they get bits and pieces of other people trying to piece together the shit they had done. And just through this, they end up going to like 4 different towns, talk to several other nobles and everything else. When all they really had to do was sort of go talk to the guy whose name they'd already heard multiple times. And I don't want to ever tell the players exactly how to do stuff. and I don't want to say no, you can't do this. At the same time, I don't feel that I definitely do not feel that time was wasted because they met NPCs that they needed to meet and that they were going to meet sooner or later anyway. They got to go places that they would have needed to go at some point, so it wasn't a total waste of time. But for what I had planned that evening, they went way the fuck off book. I had to start making up things that I hadn't prepared.
Did you
So
write it all down?
I've got notations. I'll be good with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty good about doing that. At least little notes of NPCs' names and descriptions of the towns that I hadn't quite planned out.
See, I don't take any notes.
Well, I found out I have to, man. If I don't at least write little, yeah, this guy's name was this. He's in this town. Yeah, oh, this town is, it looks sort of like this. If I don't have a full map of it or anything already made, then,
Yeah, I can't come up with names. They'll just be Steve, King Steve,
oh,
the
yeah,
Squire Steve, and all the Steves.
i-
Like,
if it's NPCs they're never going to talk to again, it's fucking Steve and Dave. If it's NPCs they actually might interact with again, I'll come up with something, and it might be the stupidest name ever, but that's their name. Write it down. They ran it. They met a Captain Brick this past weekend. That was what popped in my head. That was his name, just in case they ever have to talk to this guy again, because he does. Yeah, he's somewhat important, so they might have to speak to him again.
nice.
Yep. Plus, I now have another NPC that if I need to seed things or do things with him, there he is.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's fun
Well,
coming
that
up with
works.
shit on the fly. Oh, but so the sort of wasting all that time, I actually had like combat encounters and everything else planned out, and we never got to any of it. There was a single combat the entire night. So I know I talked to you, I think, about the one of my players being a lycanthrope.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so they didn't know what kind of lycanthrope because he hadn't changed in front of them yet. They knew when the new moon or when the full moons were coming out, so they end up tying him up to a tree with 50 feet of rope, 20 feet of chain, getting a lock, and they put his elven form and basically they put manacles on him, and then he ends up shifting. So it turns out he's a were panther.
Okay.
So he goes full, full form, like 8 feet tall, gigantic, and all. And yeah, at that point, then he decides to shift into panther form, which is a lot smaller.
Yeah,
So
I'm no longer restrained.
yeah, he was able to wiggle his way out within a few rounds and takes off into the woods.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what do you do at that point? You're in the middle of the fucking woods, no civilization for at least a half day's travel, and your companion takes off, who is now a were panther, takes off into the woods. What would you do? And
As the DM
I'm
or the player?
as a player, I'm actually curious. What would your reaction be?
So my friend just turned into a werepanther, ran off into the woods.
Yeah,
I'm
there's
in the
like
middle
there,
of the woods,
and there's five other.
and
There's a whole group of you. There's like five of you.
okay, and so um, and there's no civilization for like 2 days journey,
Yeah,
right?
for a full half day's journey. Yeah.
Okay. You said it's the evening.
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah, the moons just came out, so it's dark.
I'm making camp.
Well, they had already made camp.
I'm gonna sleep.
Okay, so you ignore it. That's what you would do, right?
Essentially, yeah. Because
Okay.
I ain't gonna be able to try. I'm thinking the characters I would play. None of them gonna be able to track a panther at night through the forest,
Yeah.
especially a werepanther. Two, I don't know where the grue is. It's somewhere in the forest, and I'm gonna smell it, and it's gonna eat me. I'm done. I'm gonna go back to the camp.
Yeah,
I'm
nobody
gonna
wants
hide
to
in my
get
tent.
eaten. You don't want to get eaten by a grue while chasing a werepanther through the woods.
Right.
It's a
I'm gonna
terrible way to
sleep
die.
in my armor. Take the hit point reduction, or take the halved healing
Yeah,
reduction,
yeah.
um, and just make
Well,
my cleric heal me some more.
you would be at full health because you hadn't fought anything the entire time.
Yeah, I'm definitely sleeping in my armor then. Um, I'm not even gonna be part of the watch. I'm gonna be like, yo, elf, because there's always an elf. You take watch. Hey, rogue tiefling, because there's always a rogue tiefling.
I just want to point out the elf was the werepanther, so there was no elf.
Oh, or whatever kind of thing. All right.
There was no tiefling, but there was a hobgoblin. Uh, let's see, hobgoblin, gnome, kobold, and 2 humans. No,
Okay.
an Asimir and a human.
I'm gonna let them figure out the sleeping schedule. I'm going to bed. I'm
Yeah.
done when it comes to hunting werepanthers at night. Sorry,
See,
I'm done.
that was what I expected to happen. Was everybody's like, well, we're not fucking catching that thing. We'll just see it whenever he shows back up. He knows where we're heading. Maybe we'll just meet him in the next town. That's what I expected to happen. Instead, the hobgoblin monk decides to fucking chase him through the woods.
All
So,
right. See, now you have a new party member.
so the monk can actually outrun the fucking werepanther. Oddly enough,
No,
and
that makes sense.
they have dark vision, so they can actually kind of keep up with it. So he chases
How's
it
his
into the woods.
tracking?
Uh, I don't know, but it never got out of sight. So if it had actually made it fully out of sight, like if he had waited an entire round before he decided to take off after it, I would have just said he's gone. But he immediately went after him. And then he starts throwing darts at him. So then the panther turns on him and he's like, "Oh, I did not think about this. I really didn't think about this ahead of time." The kobold rogue chases in, he starts heading in that direction as well. And they end up having this fucking fight, just the two of them versus the werepanther. And then the werepanther, because I actually handed it off to my player to let him run it because it's his character. So of course he tries to start biting people. So then the monk gets fucking inflicted with lycanthropy.
Okay.
Uh, they end up beating this thing down, and then they end up spending the next few days praying that the monk doesn't fucking go feral on them. Also, they finally made it back to civilization and got a cleric to fucking cast greater restoration on him at the cost of a few hundred gold pieces. But
I like my answer better, where I just go and take a
no,
nap.
your answer is the right answer. That's really what I expected them to do. But nope, nope. And then the player was in fact beating himself up over that. The character was beating himself up over it because that's what he does in all situations. So,
Well, they had a good time, and
oh
half the
fuck
party now are werepanthers.
yeah. They talked about that. They definitely discussed that.
Yeah. I actually saw a comic about that on D&D memes, and it was pretty much like one panel was um, lycanthropy as it's presented uh, in all of the forms of media, as being bitten by the werewolf is the most horrible thing ever to happen to you. And then uh, the second panel was a group of D&D adventurers meet a werewolf, and they're all like taking off their armor and like exposing their flesh, like, "Bite me, wolf daddy, bite me!"
Do it. Do it. Yep.
Like, that's the way it always happens. And like, even at our LARP, being completely vague about this, but it's like, "Oh, bite me! Yeah, I love all those things. I'll serve under you, Mister Dark Lord thing, forever. Yeah, sounds like a great
Why yes,
idea."
Mr. Vampire. I would not mind if you bit me. Please go right ahead.
Now give me my gifts. Okay, I hope I never see you again. And then end of the campaign shows up, and you're like, "Oh God, why am I being voice controlled? Who
Yeah.
knew this would happen?" Ah,
Yeah, the
I mean,
like it
I mean,
like
we say that, and our two dumbasses are like, "Death? Yeah, we're all for that.
oh yeah, all
You
about it.
voice control death? Yeah, okay. Well, you're all dead.
Yeah,
Sorry."
whatever. I'll serve my master. It's fine. Uh, no, the players they did talk about the whole everybody getting lycanthropy, but what they realized though was that the werepanther it didn't have control over itself. Like it's gonna fucking run off and do whatever. So effectively, they get nothing for it other than one day out of the month where they fucking run off and murder something. They have no memories of doing it either. That doesn't seem like a good plan.
I don't know why, but every time there's a full moon, I feel very tired the next morning. And I'm like, full. What's up with
Yeah,
that?
and I keep waking up naked next to the fucking river covered in blood. I don't know where my clothes are at either, but this is getting expensive.
I just go to sleep naked on a full moon. It's easier.
Yep. I didn't even think about that. I never did think about or even discuss what happened to the fucking character's clothing when he shifted. I
It
just
shifts
assume
with them,
I assume it shifts with them, but
which is
who the
so weird when you think about it.
well, I don't know
Like,
because if you look at the pictures of a lot of the were creatures, they're wearing clothing. Like if you look
right.
at the monster manual, they're wearing clothes.
Yeah, so I mean, the were creatures that don't shift in there, but like druids, when they shift, like all their gear melds into
Yeah,
them,
yeah,
which is
druids
really
do.
weird. It's really weird when you think about it, because like somehow their magic is able to take other magic items and other items that are not just flesh and blood,
Yeah.
and then somehow store it in like a pocket dimension or something.
Well,
And
yeah. I don't
it's
know.
just like it's one of the things that no one thinks about and everyone just accepts. Like, oh yeah, that's normal. He just turned into a T-Rex. Oh yeah, the staff of damnation that was on him. Um, yeah.
Where'd it
Oh,
go? Yeah,
he had a
yeah.
portable hole on him.
I doubt it. Pocket. I would not assume it pocket dimensions them. If I had to, as a DM, come up with a reason or what fucking happens to it, I would just assume that it becomes part of you. Like it literally just melds into you.
So
Like the
that then basically says is that like if you kill the druid, then all right,
you change the matter of what it's made of.
right. But how does that work for magic items? If you have a bag of holding on you and your druid, and you transform into a triceratops, that bag of holding becomes now part of the triceratops.
Bag
That
of holding.
triceratops
All
now has like a bag of holding organ.
well, no, y- it uh, it's not an organ. It's just it changes the type of matter. So it goes from being cloth or whatever leather or whatever it's made out of to becoming flesh and being part of you.
So what happens to the magics that were a part of it? Did the magics then become magic flesh?
I would imagine the magics are it's inconsequential what happens to them. All of
There's
when you
there's
get
two
kicked
scenarios.
out of the form, all of your stuff comes back exactly like it was.
Unless you get insta killed
Yeah.
and then you maintain the form. So there's two scenarios that I foresee with this, and I've thought about this quite a lot.
Okay. Because I never have.
Well, I'm glad I can enlighten you. Either, well, there's more than two. Either they're like transformers, and the gear and equipment transform into some kind of like pocket dimension, all right, that is uniquely tailored to them. Okay, like their own personal existence, and it's being stored inside. Like Megatron, when he transforms into a gun and he folds up. Yeah, he shrinks down, but he's actually got too much mass for, or too many parts extended for him to actually just like transform into a gun. He's too
Yeah.
bulky. So he actually folds into himself. Okay.
Right.
Um,
He is a pocket dimension.
right. He has a pocket dimension and he has like a shrinking spark or some shit. Or when they transform into this creature, the equipment shrinks down to a degree and hides in them in like a little flesh bag or something inside. So like you could still kill the triceratops and then start gutting him open and find this like
You
flesh bag or
chop
just
him up into a million pieces, you find the bag of holding with all the shit stored inside of it.
yeah, because we magic items change size. That's a known quality.
Yes.
Um
Well, even though
or
I don't think it says that anywhere, but that's how everybody I know runs it.
a few items you pick up that are usually giant size they always shrink down to match the size of the person.
Yeah,
So
but I don't think I've ever seen like, this +2 Vorpal sword or whatever, shrinks to the wielder size, or a pair of boots of striding. Yeah, I've never read that they shrink down, but literally every DM I've ever played under runs it that way. They will,
I,
if an ogre puts them on, they grow to that size. If a gnome puts them on, they shrink to that size.
I know it stated that for the pixie race in 4E that when they wield stuff it shrinks down to their size, but then that's pixie magic and
Mhm.
they can just do what they want. Um, so the third option is that like you said, the matter actually transforms and they now have a portable hole or black or can't remember the name.
Bag of devouring.
Bag of holding organ somewhere in them that you can just take out of them, and now you have like the liver of holding.
Yeah, my spleen is it's a bag of holding. It's
So I
a
was
pocket dimension.
one of the few muds that I used to play back in the early 2000s. Was called Hidden World, and one of the best items that you could get to store items was a fire giant sack.
I'm gonna talk. We're gonna talk about this one off air. Go ahead.
No, that's it. That's the end of it. So the fire giant sack was a 30 slot bag that you could put other bags in, and you could have put another fire giant sack in a fire giant sack, but you could have multiple fire giant sacks with then like other sacks inside to organize your gear and stuff.
Yeah.
You know. So that was the best holding best container item in the game. Um,
I'm just
whenever
thinking
you're
about this. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it on here. At some point, I'm putting this into my campaign. So players, keep your eyes out.
fire
It's
giant sack, yeah.
it's going to be a fire giant sack. It's going to be a backpack made from the scrotum of a fire giant.
I wasn't gonna call it out, but yeah, yeah.
Oh, I am. That's
Because
a thing.
I didn't get it at first. So I was like, cool, I got my fire giant sack. Now I can start putting stuff in here. And then like
Yeah.
fire giant sack, and then I read the description of it, and it said warm to the touch and still a little hairy. And I was like, all right, I
Oh
get it now.
no.
I got it.
Oh
I'm done.
god.
I thought it was just a bag that he had, the fire giants just had, but
Yeah.
no, I guess. Um,
Well, I'll
warm
be
to the
damned.
touch and a
Yep.
little bit hairy.
Yeah. Yeah, immediately when you said fire giant sack, that's where I went.
Well, I
I
guess I
don't
was
I
still
know
innocent then.
yeah, I don't know anything about this mud, but that's immediately where my thoughts went. So
Um, I don't think I ever talked about it on the podcast. But it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. There were 4 classes. They had warrior, cleric, rogue, and wizard, and you could like just level them all up as much as you wanted. Okay,
mhm,
but the trick to it is that if you started leveling up warrior, okay, all the other classes went up in experience cost more than getting to the next warrior level. Okay.
all right.
So like if you wanted to just go up straight warrior, it wouldn't take that long, and you can max it out like 30 or whatever it was. But if you wanted a multi-class, then it started getting harder. And then if you want to do a third one or fourth one, it was super hard. But the trick was to level it evenly. So like 1 1 1 1, 2 2 2 2. And it was incredibly long. But if you were actually to do that, you would actually gain more stats overall
Sure.
than leveling up any other way.
Yeah, it would
So
just
that's what
take you it'd
everyone,
take you forever to do it, but it'd still
yeah.
be you'd be more powerful at the top end than you would if you were just a high level rogue.
Yeah. And it was so powerful, in fact, like there was a PvPer, I think it was just straight tens, and he had leveled up that way. He was working on everything else, and uh, he was annoying as all get. But level 10, he had all the best gear for level 10. He was a very experienced player, and he would just murder you if he caught you out there, just running around.
Right.
Um, but there was a good story though to this game where essentially like there's a room everybody hearths back to, like when you die, or if you use like your hearthstone to hearth back. And in that room, it's the only room in the entire game where PvP can still happen. All right, but there is um an NPC in there called Brutus, who was an executioner that would essentially kill you in one hit. All right,
Yep.
but Minty Fresh was so good at killing you and his commands and whatever things he had, he could basically start attacking you in the game. And before the server registered, he would already send the command to leave the room, come back and stab you again. So Brutus was just a little off when it came to actually attacking Minty Fresh. Okay.
You have been killed by Minty Fresh.
So someone decided to take out Minty Fresh. When you die, you pop all your gear goes. What he did is he created a character called Brute, Brut, and he found Minty Fresh and attacked him and immediately hearthed. Well, Minty Fresh uses macro, okay, hearthed back, and had already queued up Backstab Brute. Well, by the time he hearthed back, Brute had already left with his macro up north. So when he got back, the first command was Backstab Brute, and he didn't need to type in the full character's name for it to target somebody. It just went for whoever was closest, and he backstabbed Brutus.
He immediately turns and murders the shit out of him.
And immediately turned and murdered his stuff, and then Brute came back and took all his shit.
Nice.
All his min-max level stuff just gone, and Minty Fresh never showed up again.
Oh.
Because it took him years to get that gear and get that far. And with the XP penalty and the losing of all his gear, he was just sunk. The character was sunk forever. A level 2 character took out the best PvPer on the server.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it happens. You know Eve online, obviously.
Yeah.
Like
the most expensive PvP match ever in history. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like I don't play the game. I don't know a whole hell of a lot about the game. I played it a little bit just to sort of get a feel for it. But every decade or so, there's just stories that come out of there of some PvP war that takes place. And with the actual real world monetary value of some of the things in that game,
Mm-hmm.
it's just amazing to see what takes place when these corporations start battling with each other. And like just the intrigue. Hell, there's actually a book that was written on a single specific war that took
Yep.
place in that video game.
It's really easy to find it. It's actually a Guinness World Record.
Yeah.
It's called the Massacre at M2-XFE. And the
Okay.
backstory behind it is because I actually know a little bit about this, is somebody was part of Group 1. I don't know what the group was called, but Group
Yeah.
1. And his credit card elapsed. All right. And he didn't pay to upkeep his account. So that caused a gap in the defensive network of Group A. The second that was realized that, hey, there's now a hole here, everyone decided to basically go and try to break through into this giant corporation's, space.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
And take
effectively,
it over.
you're fighting for territory, just like
Yeah.
anywhere else.
So, over 5,000 players duked it out at M2-XFE. And when all was said and done, I guess the groups are called the Imperium and PAPI. The fight lasted 14 hours, involved 1,000 Titans, 400 supercarriers, and 400 dreadnoughts. 257 Titans were destroyed. That's the largest ship available in EVE Online.
Yeah, the Titans they're massive.
6 supercarriers, 50 carriers, and 50 dreadnoughts, with a total loss of 3,404 ships. Totaling 29,111,604,000. Wait, 100,000 billion. 29 trillion. 111,604,784,864 ISK dollars, equating to real world money of $378,012, which eclipsed the previous battle that happened on Eve that cost $302,000 with all the losses. So, yeah, I'm never going to play Eve because I don't want to lose any money. I already lost a decade of my life to World of Warcraft. I ain't going to lose $300,000 in Eve.
You wouldn't lose that much because you don't have to. I mean, okay, yeah, I guess you do have to pay the monthly fees to play the game. So anyway, yeah, it's ridiculous. I love hearing the war stories from that video game. And honestly, I think people could, if you did enough research into it, you could probably learn a lot and actually just throw stuff like that into your D&D campaigns. There's a lot to learn from Eve.
Well, one of the things I like is I always like post-apocalyptic landscapes. So setting something like this, where like you have two giant corporations duking it out, and essentially leaving both crippled afterwards, that creates a huge power gap and a
Uh-huh.
huge power vacuum that exists. So the amount of like resources just floating in space essentially for you to go harvest is now through the roof. And that's a really good setting, I think. It's actually something that's actually in my homebrew world.
Yeah, that's
Um,
actually a really good setting. It's
yeah,
a good
like
idea.
having a post-war area where people can just kind of like make a living off grabbing the weapons and the metals and the
It's
scrap.
your dungeons. Oh, we found this gigantic super dreadnought that's only half destroyed. Let's go inside, strip this thing down, see what we find. Little do you know that there's this aliens that are living down in there. Oh, and there's still some survivors that have been in there. Like, yeah, I mean, you could
Yeah,
easily do something cool like that.
because when you think on a galactic scale, building a dreadnought takes an entire planet's worth of resources, and then when you have 50 planets building 50 of these giant ships, that's what makes Warhammer Warhammer. It's
Yeah,
just that scale of
one
things.
one one ship can hold a few million people on it.
Yeah. So when you scale it down though to like a fantasy setting, and let's say you have two armies clashing, Lord of the Rings style, you know, um, you're gonna have big epic, you know, battles where just 100,000 people died, you know.
Yep.
And so now with 100,000 people dead, the carrion beasts show up to start eating things. And then all the scrappers will come in to start taking back all the
Yeah.
metal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you have a dragon die, you can always crawl through the dragon to harvest its resources. I
Over
mean,
Terras.
there's a Terrask dungeon out there if you Google it. That's a really cool dungeon, and that you're crawling through a dead Terrask to get points. I mean,
Yep.
magic items.
Point is, get creative. I mean, it's a fantasy world, so you can honestly do whatever you want.
Yeah, and scale it up too, because the battle could have taken been like centuries ago. Like if there's giants that died, their skeletons still remain, or
Yeah.
if there are constructs there, those constructs still remain. And what happens if one activates a little bit? And it goes, set the prime directive. War.
Yeah.
War.
You
Yeah.
have all these half broken golems, missing their heads that are still running around.
Yeah. I was thinking more Judge Dredd, the
Yeah, I
movie.
know. I know.
Well,
All
I
right.
don't know if everyone got the reference, but
Okay,
the
I
four
got
of
the
you
reference.
that did,
Yeah. But
you're all right. The other
I,
five of you that didn't get the reference.
I was always a big fan of the '90s Judge Dredd one, which is nothing at all like the actual comics, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, but the Dredd movie was great.
I honestly I like the Sylvester Stallone one better.
Really?
Yep.
I mean, it's not bad. It's just
It's cheesy, it's campy, it reminded me of Demolition Man.
that's what it felt like. It felt like Demolition Man 2, Electric
Mhm.
Boogaloo.
Yeah, and I love
Um,
Demolition Man, so
yeah, I like Judge Dredd, the movie with Stallone, a lot, and then that got me into the comic, and then after reading the comic, I'm like, oh, I can see why a lot of people didn't like this.
yeah, I mean, it's nothing like the actual, God,
Um,
what do they call the comic? I don't remember his name. It's not
Judge
Judge Dredd.
Dredd, or just
No,
Dredd, I think.
that was something
But the 2012 movie with Carl Urban and
good. I enjoyed
Cersei's,
it, just
I was so good. I like that one so much. Like, I wish it would make that into a TV series. Like, I want to see them pull the Death Judge from like
oh, 2000 AD was the actual Judge Dredd comic. They started making a Judge Dredd comic later on, but he started off in 2000 AD.
okay, yeah, I think it's great. I like it. I like that setting quite a bit. What is an RPG for that?
I'm sure there is. If there isn't, well, there's going to be when you're done with it.
Yep, Judge Dredd role playing game
Eh,
came out in 2000 by Games Workshop.
of course. That's actually that's
No.
appropriate.
Came out in 2018. Uses a D6 system.
The more you know.
Huh.
All right,
Hey,
I think we're done.
Who wants to do a Judge Dredd stream? Anybody?
Judge Dredd stream. You have to get you a helmet. You have to look like Judge Dredd when running it.
Law.
I am the law. Bye,
Uh,
Craig. Bye, Chris.
I wasn't done.
I'm done. I gotta go.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. Check us out on Facebook at
There's no at Facebook. It's just facebook.com/Grumpy Dungeon Masters.
and on Twitter
That'd be at Grumpy_DMs.
and on Instagram.
At Grumpy Dungeon Masters.
And also be sure to follow us on Twitch.
Twitch.tv/Grumpy Dungeon Masters, where we play Rime of the Frostmaiden every Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Fuck yeah.